What the hell happened on Saturday? We're going to talk about it. But I think that was everyone's reaction, right? I know that was our reaction.
We started?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Joe doesn't even know we started the show. Everybody's so off. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly how everyone feels. What the hell out of it? Because we were blindsided.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel stupid, to put it that way. I know we talked on the last one about being biased as an LSU fan and that Florida State was a good team. They are a good team. We played terribly. That was not good football. And we looked unprepared. We looked like we quit. That was not, you build up this game for months. What, they knew about it for a year, maybe close to a year? It was pegged on the calendar?
2 years, because we knew that.
Right.
Yeah.
So a long time. So you have 2 years worth of buildup for this game, this rematch, right? And you talk, Jane Daniels is comfortable. Brian Kelly's got it under control. We're seeing a lot of chemistry. You hear all this chatter, and then that happens on the field. Make it make sense, because it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one issue. It was multiple. I mean, overall, coaching, personnel, strategy, nothing was working. But I think, to be honest with you, I'm the most disappointed in the fact that this team didn't fight. Like, the second half, it looked like they gave up. They quit. And I hate that. But let's talk a little bit more about specifics of what happened. We'll start with the defense, because I know you said it so many times Saturday night that Harold Perkins was not used correctly.
Yeah.
Or I know they moved him to Mike, but when they realized, hey, this isn't working, it's not doing anything for us, why wouldn't they move him back?
Yeah, I feel like we schemed him out of the game.
Yes.
We ourselves took him out of the game and made him a non-issue. He dropped back into pass coverage 21 times and only rushed 7 times. He's the best pass rusher in all of college football, and it's not close. And we didn't ask him to do it.
Why? That's my question. Why would you do that to yourself? If you want to try it, you want to switch it up at the beginning of the season, let's see how he does in the middle of the field, fine. But after a few minutes, maybe a quarter, change it. It's not working. That strategy is not how you're going to win this game. Of course, you want to see him be able to do it all. I know that's what Brian Kelly said. We want him to learn here. Use him where he can help the team, because you put yourself at a disadvantage at that point.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I get what Brian Kelly was saying in the presser about, they want to prepare him for the next level as well and where he's likely going to play. But the problem is you're not doing that if he's not a Mike linebacker. You're just having him in a position that you think he best profiles for, but if he's not the best Mike linebacker, you're doing him a disservice.
You're hurting him.
Yeah.
You're not only hurting him, you're hurting the team. So I can understand wanting to put him in the best position for the next level. But let's slow down and look where we're at now, because if you really look at it in the grand scheme of things, you're hurting both him and the team.
Yeah.
The defense, though, all over or all across the board, just didn't look great, to say the least. We talked about the DBs, and we didn't know who was going to step up. We didn't know how that was going to work out. Well, you saw, it was not good.
Well, let's give some props where they are due. Greg Brooks played a really good game.
Yes.
I think he played with a really high motor. Those were the 2 high points on defense. Was Greg Brooks he looked like a leader out there, and Mekhi Wingo had a hell of a game. But other than that, it was we looked lost, and that's not something I can blame on the players.
That's what I was going to say. I said I think this might be a little bit deeper into coaching and the matchups. I mean, the FSU receiver, big dude,
Keon Coleman or Johnny Wilson?
Both of them, but Wilson was matched up, the size difference. And I get it. Our personnel were limited, whatever. Denver Harris was not there. But I really think I blame the coaching on that one. These guys, yes, they could have done better. The tackling needs some work, but you can't blame it all on the players. I agree with you there.
Well, I think early in the game, so I'm going to stay on that for a second, because early in the game, I think the tackling was actually much improved from the last several seasons. we were making tackles at the point of contact, which I was very impressed with. I said that to you and Anthony. But I think there was a point in that game where our players lost hope in the scheme and stopped playing. And that's whenever you see guys getting run over in the end zone and bullied and dragged for first downs. And I don't think that's because they can't tackle. It's because they gave up. And I look, those guys, the athletes at LSU didn't show up to campus at LSU soft. That's not how you go get a D1 scholarship. Okay. So I think that is something that is literally coached into them.
That was my next point here. We've talked to some of those guys.
Yeah.
They are not soft by any means.
No.
They're very tough. They've got, the fight, but you didn't see it across the board on Saturday.
No.
So my question is that what has been ingrained in the culture this offseason? Have we really gotten that soft to the point where almost your whole team just threw up their hands and, played half-ass, honestly?
I think there's a fine line because, yes, there is the line of we need to be disciplined, don't hurt ourselves and take ourselves out of the game. And that's something that we did really well in the first half. I don't think we had a penalty in the first half. And I looked up in the third or fourth quarter and Florida State was shooting themselves in the foot over and over with penalties, and they had 70 some odd penalty yardage. And we had one penalty for 15 yards. So I think very clearly that was an emphasis at practice and in the development of this team was we're going to be disciplined. We're not going to screw up. But at what point does that turn into we're not going to defend our players?
That's it. What happened?
Jaden Daniels.
That was it. When he tried to, hurdle, whatever happened, but he got slammed to the ground. And I remember you looking at me being like, nobody's going to do anything about that. Like somebody should have stepped up. That's your quarterback kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that does come into play of like, we've been so disciplined and you had that big fight happen at practice with the LSU players. So I know that's been something that's been talked about. Brian Kelly wasn't happy about that, but by pushing discipline, which is a good thing, I agree with you. There's a line because football is football. And if you don't have that, then you have a game like you had on Saturday where Florida State is just doing what they want to do and nobody's responding. And then they just take off with the score. I think it's been ingrained in the culture, unfortunately.
Yeah. And
can you reverse that?
Yeah, you absolutely can. And look, honestly, so that happened with Jaden Daniels. Aaron Anderson got hit late on the sideline, and there was a penalty. There was a penalty called on that. But nobody did anything. Yeah. And what happens is in the feel amongst the players in those situations, they get back to the huddle, and now they have to look at their team and know that y'all didn't have my back right there. Why do I want to play for y'all? You know what I mean? And so to me personally, and I can't speak for everybody, but to me personally, I know that if I'm on the field and I get a cheap shot taken at me and none of my players do anything about it, at some point I'm like, I know we didn't lose 15 yards there, and thank God we didn't. But that's 30 yards that we're now not going to gain because I know we don't have each other's back. And that's something that I think there's some risk reward there. I'll take a personal foul if it means I'm tighter with my quarterback.
You're right on the money. I think that's probably the biggest part of what was lacking was, and I'm not condoning fighting. That is not what I'm sitting here doing, but this is a tough sport and it's a team sport. And I think right what you said, if you're not going to have your teammates' backs, then what are you playing for at that point? And you saw it. That's how it unfolded on Saturday. The second half, I remember watching the very first drive and looking at you like, hey, that was good. They didn't finish, but they got down the field.
You're talking about in the first half?
Yes, in the first half.
Yeah.
It dissipated. First off, you kept seeing them move the ball, but they couldn't convert, and they couldn't score. So that was concerning. But then I think after the second half, you saw Florida State make the adjustments they needed to make, and LSU just continued to play the same game that they were playing in the first half. And that is when the separation happened. Why? Why, as a coaching staff, if you're in that position, why are you playing the same game you played in the first? Kind of going back to what we said about Harold Perkins, why didn't you move him? Why are we sticking with something that's not working?
Yeah. To answer you, I don't know. Honestly, in that first possession, we ran I think we got right down the field in 2 plays. And the crosser to the running back, it was really just more of a check down. But I remember saying out loud, I love that play design. I love
Mm-hmm.
how that, like, I was explaining it to you, how it worked
Yeah.
and why it was such a good play and everything. We got right down the field, and I was like, if this is the type of ball we're going to play, this is going to be a fun game. But then we get down to the red zone. We run out of the shotgun 3 times, just trying to go up the A-gaps. And then we get to a third down. We get to a third down, and this is the situational awareness that I was talking about when it comes to Jaden. And I don't dislike Jaden. I think he's a good quarterback. He's got lots of potential. But this is what I was talking about whenever I was talking about between the ears and situational awareness and confidence. I feel like he presses in those situations, right? So Malik Neighbors is standing out the back of the end zone, and he throws that ball. And Malik makes a hell of a catch, but it's an uncatchable ball.
Right.
It's out of bounds. Meanwhile, Brian Thomas is standing on the 1-yard line. All he's got to do is catch it and fall, and it's a touchdown. Okay, so that's third down. Then you come out to run the fourth down play. Florida State takes a timeout. You come right back out, and on that fourth down conversion at 4th and goal, he takes a sack. And that is the only wrong thing you can do on that play. If you're not going to score, if you don't have anybody open, it does not harm you to throw it up and hope somebody makes a play, because the only thing that can happen is you don't score. But if you give someone a chance, you have a chance.
Yeah.
If you take a sack, you don't.
I'm glad you brought him up, because obviously that's a huge talking point here. He's not a bad quarterback, but we did talk about the fact that he needs to elevate his confidence and get comfortable, not hesitate, know what's going on kind of thing, not be afraid to throw the ball, lead your receivers kind of thing. Do you and I know he started to, but then you started to kind of see a little bit of what he looked like last year. So from your perspective, because I asked you this question, before the game, what does he need to do to step up? Do you think he did what he needed to do?
No, I don't. But
did
again,
did you see like a change?
Yeah, so early in the game, yes. And again, I think we have to base this conversation around early in the game, because once the wheels fell off, it's now on coaching, because the guys aren't bought in anymore,
right.
And that's a coaching problem. But I think early in the game, the one thing that I did notice that was different is the only time he ran the ball was on design run plays, and I like that. He hung in the pocket, he looked at all his reads. I didn't love all the decisions he made, but he made a point to stay in the pocket and look for the receivers. So I like that.
The run game, though?
Yeah.
And I wanted to look at the stat, because I believe he led in rushing yards.
Yeah, he did, with like 64 or something like that.
Which is very concerning, considering you have a good amount of running backs on this team who have been here. You also have a good little freshman. Like, why is the run game not a threat? Why are we not trying to use it as a threat? Because it looks like, from my perspective at least, Jaden Daniels is not super comfortable with his receivers. They were off. Like, they didn't connect well. I think Malik Neighbors had 13 targets and caught the ball 6 times. Like, they weren't clicking.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, you should be able to lean on the run game. However, that did not happen.
Yeah.
It lacked, to be honest. Go ahead.
I think we also have to recognize, and I don't think we put enough emphasis on it before, how much we were going to miss John Emery and Armani Goodwin specifically. So John Emery, I understand he missed a lot of the last couple seasons, but he was also the guy to, score against Alabama and make a defensive back miss. Like, he's a very, very dynamic player that when he's playing is a difference maker. And then with Armani Goodwin, he may not be the fastest running back on the team. He may not be the most physical running back on the team, but he's got the highest motor, and the way he hits the gap is different than everybody else. So that's to me, the difference with a guy like Armani Goodwin being in the game is when you're getting hit a yard behind the line of scrimmage, well, maybe you're getting hit a yard in front of the line of scrimmage now, and you can fall for 3 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And so as opposed to a loss of 1 yard, that's a 4-yard gain.
Right.
And that makes a massive difference over the course of a game.
For sure. We knew there was going to be a little bit of a disadvantage in the backfield just because those 2 guys were not there. But I mean, there really wasn't a run game. Mm-hmm. So moving forward, I hope that the coaching staff sees that and decides to use those 2 to their advantage rather than playing the same game that they played the whole first half, second half. I'm off my soapbox. I'm not going on about it anymore. Any other remarks that you want to pull out about that game?
Yeah.
And then we're going to leave it because we have another game in 2 days. But go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I do want to touch on this is all LSU fans can agree that regardless of why you think it was bad, it was an abysmal game and it was a bad performance and all that. Let's not forget, Florida State is very likely going to win out in the regular season.
Yeah.
The toughest remaining game on their schedule is Clemson, and Clemson just got dragged by Duke.
As well.
So Florida State is very likely going to win out their regular season, potentially win the ACC. And if that's the case, they're a playoff team, and we hung with them for 3 quarters.
We're not taking anything away from FSU.
No,
They're a very good
not.
team, but they surely exposed LSU on Saturday.
And on that same note, the toughest game on our schedule remaining is Alabama. Like I personally still think there's a very good shot we can go 8-0 over the next 8 games and go into Alabama to win the SEC West. Our season is not over. Let's pump the brakes on all that. We're still a good team. We just have we have adjustments to make, and knowing that the problem with the team, right? The problem with how this game went is our team quit. Our team was not bought in down the stretch. And we saw that in 2017 versus Troy, right? And what did we do? We came out and finished the season really, really strong.
I think that's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
If they can make those adjustments quickly and come out, get a good win over Grambling, get the confidence up, I think you're right. We do see maybe a win out. I'm still iffy on the Bama game. I need to see more.
Up until the Bama game.
I know. But I think, the season's not over. We've seen this before.
But I use the example of Troy in 2017, and I think an even better example would be Tennessee last year. Tennessee dominated us at home, and the very next game, we took it to Ole Miss.
Right.
Like, we got everything figured out. We fixed it in the locker room and at practice and went and won the SEC West. So this season is not over. It's 1 week. Let's acknowledge the bad things that happened and look forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, we're still ride or die. It's fine. Just had to get the vent session out.
Also, LSU fans, figure it out. In the airport coming home, there were so many LSU fans that I was like, go Tigers, and they were like, man. I was like, no, still go Tigers, guys. Like, we're still LSU fans, okay?
Yeah, what he said.